Welcome everyone to this little workshop in the Involve the Users project. We are having quite a lot of participants today, so we are asking you to keep your camera and microphone off during the presentations, and then you are welcome to either write your questions in the chat, or if you prefer to speak, then we can of course put on your microphone when the moderator is asking you to speak. But we will have a lot of background noise if everyone has their microphones on all the time. So it's not to silence you, but to make it a little bit easier to have a meeting when we are so many at the same time. Also, the cameras are always nice to see people, but because of the restraints on the internet, it's usually better for people who are, now that we're all, most of us at least, sitting at home for the Wi-Fi to work as well as possible. It's better to have the camera on while speaking. So we do today have international sign language in the plenary, and we also have live captions, which you can find in the closed captions functionality in Zoom. We also have, for the first time, we are trying to have 3 automatic translated captions at the same time. So for every one of you who would like to have captions in Swedish, Norwegian, or Finnish, these will be provided to you separately. We can't make that happen inside of Zoom yet. So in the chat, my colleague Eva will provide you with the links to the specific captioning in those 3 languages.
If I may, Susanna, I just sent the link in the chat, so you can, everyone who wants to, you can use this one. And then in order to have the translations, please choose a language. There you have one scroll, you can scroll down and select Swedish, Finnish, or Norwegian. And note though, in order to keep the translations going, don't jump between the languages, because then you're gonna lose all the transcripts if you would like to have the continuation of it. So just open the link in the browser and select your language.
Okay, thank you. That was good. I had the wrong idea about how that should happen, but thank you very much, Eva. And if you have any feedback around this automatic translation service, then please send it to us afterwards, because this is the first time we try this we do something in 4 languages in parallel, and we are very interested to see how it works and what you think about it. So the agenda for today is this kind of starting point welcome. We will also present the project results. Then we will have small breakout sessions in different languages for 45 minutes. And then everyone gets a good, nice coffee break where we can stand up and move around, or stand on your hands, or whatever you like to do, for 15 minutes, and then we reconvene in the plenary to have a discussion on what all the expert groups and panels have, the results of their discussions, and hopefully have some really, really good solutions together. And then we will just end the whole session at 3 o'clock, hopefully with a lot of good inspiration and new ideas for the future. So this project is a Nordic project between Sweden, Norway, and Finland. And it's funded by the Nordic Welfare Center. So it's the Funka Foundation and the company Funka, of course. And then there is the umbrella organization for the Norwegian disability organizations, and the disabled persons organization for people with cognitive disabilities in Finland. And I will not try to tell you the beautiful name of that organization, but I will let everyone introduce themselves. So if Katu, would you like to just say a few words about you and the organization you present, please?
I certainly can do that. Thank you, Susanna. First, about the organization I represent, which is the Norwegian Federation of Organizations of Disabled People, which is an umbrella organization with 84 member organizations of people with disabilities and chronic diseases. Our main goal is to work for better living conditions and the fulfillment of human rights for people with disabilities and chronic diseases. Most of our work is politically based. We have regular meetings with the government, parliament, and directorates about issues that are of relevance for people with disabilities and chronic diseases. These issues cover the whole life spectrum from birth to death. And then about me, I work as a senior advisor on universal design on all areas of society. And in that respect, I am involved in many projects. And for that, my organization receives no money, although I am an expert on universal design. But I have my own projects where, of course, funded and the money is received by my organization. I sometimes receive gift cards from consultants who do research and depend on my knowledge to find good solutions. And it shouldn't be like that, I think. So I think this work should be structured better, and that's what this project is about. Thank you.
Thank you, Kato. So then we have our colleague from Finland, Mira. Would you like to say something about the organization you're representing and maybe something of why you are in this project as well?
Yeah, hello. So my name is Mira Vihmo and I come from Finland. And the name of our organization in Finnish is Kehitysvammaliitto. And it translates into the Finnish Association on Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. And we are an organization with around 80 employees, and we carry out research, offer training, engage in development, communicate, exercise influence, and produce materials with an aim of bringing people with disabilities out of the margins so they can fully participate in the functioning of society and their own communities. And why we are part of this Involving Users project is because we are hoping to bring awareness that people with different kind of cognitive disabilities, like memory problems, learning disabilities, and so on, and people who need easy to read language in order to get information they need to live fully, are also involved and valued as an important resource by giving their opinions and experiences in user testing, different kind of product development, and so on. And of course, we are very happy to work together with our Nordic partners from Sweden and Norway. Thank you that we can be part of this.
Thank you. So from Funka and the Funka Foundation, we have myself. I'm the Research and Innovation Officer of Funka and the Chairman of the Funka Foundation. I also have my colleague Jakob Haslöv with me, who has been the project manager for this project, and I'm now trying to be a little bit quick in the presentations to save time. And we have Eva Björk, who is the research assistant at the Research and Innovation Department, and she is instrumental in making everything work smoothly. So thank you very much for being here with us. Eva will take care of the questions, and Jakob will also manage the discussion in the plenary, so you will have plenty of time to interact with both of them later. I'm just hoping that we will have time also to discuss a little or to present the project a little bit here in the first part. So I wanted also to tell you that when I tried to find photos for this presentation, it was really hard to find pictures of Sweden, Finland, and Norway in flags or maps or anything without Denmark. Everything is, when it's Nordic, it's always the 4 countries. So I'm sorry, Denmark. It's my favorite country that you're not in this project, but this is how it is. And if you look closely to the image here, you can see that the Danish flag is actually in the background here, but it's just cut out, not by me. So a little bit about the background for this project. Everyone is agreeing that user-centric design is sort of extremely important, and that's kind of self-evident that if you want to produce things for humans, then well, you should do that based on the requirements for everyone. Otherwise, it won't really work. But in reality, we find that most of our clients and partners, they don't really walk the talk. They talk about user requirements and they talk about user needs and user involvement, but in reality, there's rarely time enough to really engage with people at all. And this has been something that has been a little bit frustrating or irritating to us in many years. And at the same time, we hear from the user organizations and for individuals with disabilities and other users that nobody is asking for my advice. Nobody is asking me how to do this better. Why are they not listening to me? And also in the Web Accessibility Directive, there is a really good chance for users to make their voices heard, because there is a requirement for a feedback mechanism. So if users find something that is not accessible, that should be accessible, the public sector authorities are obliged to have a mechanism for users with or without disabilities to provide feedback. And we are, of course, trying to use this very sort of a little bit lazy way of saying it, that feedback is a gift, but I do believe in that. It sounds like a marketing payoff, but if you can get people to really tell you what the problems are of your website, that is a fantastic way of being aware that something needs to be done. And it's really like free consultancy. So I think involving the users makes a lot of sense, and everyone agrees on that, but still that is not really happening. And even worse, when we talk to our clients and partners about involving users, then they say, oh yeah, I did involve a user. So I am a developer, I'm 24 years old and I'm male and I'm super techie. And I did test this with users. I asked my friend, he's also 25, male and studies engineering at the same university. That is not really what we mean. I mean, just another person on the other side of the corridor may be a good user, of course, but I mean, if you only try to involve people that think the same way as you do yourself, then it won't really help, because people are so much diverse than this. And then when it comes to the reality, if you look at products and services out there, you can clearly see that they have not been produced with the help of people at all, and especially not with people with disabilities. Most of the photos I'm showing in my slides are just decorative and don't reveal any meaning, but the one I'm showing now is showing a ramp that is perfectly fine when it comes to the legislative requirements, but it ends up in the middle of a stairway. So this cannot really be used for any accessibility measures at all. And this is how it really can end up. This is the risk when you don't involve users. You're only looking at the standards or the requirements, or you're looking for compliance, but you don't involve real users. So that is why, together with our beloved partners in the other countries, we thought we need to do something about this. We need to at least try. So the project idea from the beginning was quite wide and broad and very ambitious, and we still have that idea, but we started with a stepwise approach, trying to look at just 3 countries first and see what can we do in a Nordic project. So our project idea was, can't we try to find out why it looks like this? If everyone agrees that user involvement is super important, why isn't it happening? How can it be that the people who are producing and developing and designing things want to involve users, or at least say it's a good idea, but they don't use it? They don't do it. And how come that the users say that they would like to provide their knowledge and expertise into project management and research, but they are maybe not allowed, or they don't think that it works in a good way? So no one is happy. We need to find out why. And then the way Funka works is, of course, not to point to problems, but always to try to provide solutions. So not only looking into the whys, but also try to see, is there something we can do here? And I want to be clear that this project cannot offer the solutions. This is just a tiny project. It was done in short time. It's like, I see it as the first step on many steps to provide maybe some part of the solution. Because the end goal of this is, of course, if we have some solutions or ideas or recommendations for a solution, then we also want to make sure that it actually happens. And maybe this little conference we have today, this workshop, is not only the ending of this project, but also the first step of something that we could do together, or at least with some of you, to really make something better happen. We would like to improve the situation for developers and designers and product owners and for users, especially users with disabilities, but really for any user, any consumer that wants to have better products and services. I think that really is a place where accessibility is universal or something that benefits all of us. So the first thing we did in this project was to ask, why is this not happening? We wanted to ask the end users, what is the problem? How do you feel when you are invited? First of all, are you invited to be involved in product and services production or testing or anything? I mean, this could happen before a product is even sort of the draft is made, or during the development process, or by the end, or all of this. But are you ever approached by public or private sector organizations that are developing products and services? And if you are, and if you are also providing your expertise into different situations like this, how are you treated? Does it work well? Are you paid? Is everything around your testing environment, like transportation and interpretation, assistive technology, all of these things that needs to be there to make the testing experience or the involvement experience positive for you, is that happening? One thing that we have heard many times before is that people are providing their expertise, and then the company or organization who is doing the testing, they say, okay, bye-bye, thank you very much. And then they don't hear anything more. So I provided everything I know about this, and I took from my time. Maybe I didn't even get paid for it. And then I have no idea what happened. So of course, the people who are providing their expertise on this should be probably compensated, but also receive some kind of feedback. That is what makes it interesting, and that is what makes people want to go back to the testing room again, because they know that, okay, I can see that they actually changed something. After I provided my feedback, something happened. So we wanted to make this clear, not only to have what we have heard during the years from different partners and organizations we work with, but to really see what does people with disabilities think about this. So we reached out to all the networks we have in the 3 countries and asked this in a survey. And just in parallel with this happening, we were approached by a couple of students from the Swedish the Technical University in Stockholm who were doing a master on how local governments are approaching users and user involvement. So we managed to combine this in also adding another survey, but this was made only in Sweden, because this is not really part of the project, but we have used the results of this study as well. So that is a study targeting local governments in Sweden, asking them, are you involving users in your product development? And if not, why? So we have very good information here and a lot of interesting intel that we have learned. So the first survey we did for persons with disabilities in Norway, Finland, and Sweden, we have 106 respondents. 90% of them said they were well treated. All of them said that they had experience in user testing or user involvement in some way or another. So out of these 90% say they were well treated. That was much more than I would have thought, so positive. 60% said that they got compensation, which is also much more than I thought, but only 3% got real salary. So compensation could be maybe a product or a giveaway or something, a smaller thing. 50% also responded that they did get feedback after the testing period, and 60% said that they could use their assistive technology. So all in all, more positive than we thought, but still there are some complaints and negative things. So you're welcome to read the full results of this, of course. It's downloadable from our website, but just some examples of what people said, despite overall being quite satisfied with feeling well treated and so on. we had a couple of respondents saying that, yeah, we are heard, but we are not listened to. So I'm invited to give my expertise, but nobody really cares what I say. Also, a recurring complaint was that there's a low competence around disability requirements and assistive technology and accessibility as such in the organizations that are organizing the tests. And then there were long lists of complaints with the test was too difficult, it's too lengthy, it's take too long time, I get tired of it, it's too complex, the questions are too complicated, or it's completely irrelevant. It's not sort of suited to me. It doesn't fit my world or my abilities. And again and again and again came back the lack of compensation. And when we looked at the survey results from the local governments, which is then only done in Sweden, we had 108 respondents, but only 45 of them completed the full survey. So this is a much smaller result, but many of these did answer to quite a lot of the questions. This was more of an academic study. It was much longer, so it's hard to get people to really fill out all the parts. We asked how often users are involved in product and service development, and 65% said either never, rarely, or sometimes. So this is not good. Only 20% responded that they do it often, and only 2% say that they always involve users. And I want to give a little bit of a disclaimer here, because the local governments that answer surveys when we send something out, this is coming from the Funka account, and they are sent mainly to the people we know, the communication officers that we have a relationship from before. These are the people who are usually most interested in accessibility issues. Otherwise, we wouldn't have them in our mailing lists, and they wouldn't open mails from us. So if anything, I would say these numbers are too positive. If this had been done in a more scientific way, and we have reached sort of a broader range of government officials, then I think the numbers would have been even worse. When we ask specifically on how often persons with disabilities are involved in product and services development, then 73% answered never, rarely, or sometimes. So that's higher than sort of average user involvement. And then, interestingly enough, 27% said, I don't know. And if you answer, I don't know, and you're responsible for the communication in a local government, then I would say that means no, because these people would know if that was at least something that was thought about. It could be, of course, that, sorry, that it's so natural to involve people with disabilities so that they always do it, and that is not even an issue, and they don't have it documented anyway. That may be true, but I think that the reason the background to people not knowing what to answer in this question is that they didn't really hear about it. So, and the other parts I wanted to show from the survey of local governments in Sweden is when we asked why aren't users involved, the main reasons were resources. So that could be human resources or money or any other resources. 42% claimed resources to be the reason why they didn't involve users. 28% say they didn't have time for it in the projects. 13% said it's not deemed relevant. That's interesting. 21% said, I don't know. And 33% said different things in free text, but I kind of summarized it to we do our best. Could be we should do it, we did it before, we will do it in the future, we don't have the, well, different answers, but sort of summarized to we really try. And when we specifically asked why persons with disabilities are not involved, then interestingly enough, the numbers changed a bit. So 28% said that it's because it's so hard to get to them. We don't have the contacts, we don't know where they are. 27% said it's a lack of time. 22% said this was never mentioned. So again, They didn't think of it. 18% claim resources. 12%, interestingly enough, say we don't have the competence, which could of course mean that they realize it's kind of hard, or at least harder. It requires some competence to set up a test with a person that requires assistive technology or similar. 3% said it's not relevant, and 28% I don't know. Again, all these numbers, all the details are in the reports, and you're welcome to download them from our website. So this is where we are right now. It's very clear that we have a problem. And the whole aim with this workshop is that we are now trying to make some kind of solution together, or at least discuss how this can be improved. So we have invited 3 panels with distinguished experts from the 3 different countries. So we will now have breakout rooms where the invited experts are discussing with each of them, have a moderator. And in this plenary session, the audience, you, are invited to keep the discussion going among yourselves under the leadership of my colleague, Jakob. And then after 45 minutes, we have the discussion, we have the coffee break, and then we reconvene at 5 to 2 Swedish time. And then the groups will present the results, and we will have a plenary discussion and see if we have any brilliant ideas for the next steps of this. So the experts that we have invited, they consist of national representations from disabled persons organizations and or individuals with disabilities. We have people responsible for digital services in the public sector. We have professionals from the industry, user testing professionals, and we have representatives from the research institutions and academy, so the university people, and the groups are divided by language so that everyone can discuss in their own maternal language. And the questions that we are going to discuss during these 45 minutes are, what are, according to your experience, the main challenges when it comes to user involvement? So why isn't it happening? And then potential solution. What could we do together to improve the situation? And who would be responsible for each of those ideas so that we try to be constructive and look forward, look into the future. And then the third part, to be really concrete, what could the next steps possibly be? We have an idea of doing this as a project, another research project to sort of leverage on the knowledge we have got so far, but there may be many other ideas and possible next steps as well, starting some kind of revolution for users, I hope. So with that, I will ask Eva to do the magic and make sure that we have the breakout sessions going, and then we will be automatically moved back into the plenary whenever the time is right. Thank you.
Yes, I will just replace the spotlight on our sign language interpreters, because I think you're gonna switch now, and I will start the breakout rooms. So, yeah, so I think we are here with Jakob. So Jakob, yeah. All of us who stayed in the plenary session, we can have a discussion in English, and all our experts, they are now in their own rooms. So yeah, I will leave it to Jakob to moderate the discussions, and I can keep an eye on the list. Yeah, everyone has access to your own phones, microphones. So please just yeah, if you feel free to discuss, and I will try to maybe moderate it in case there will be too many people talking at once.
Yeah, so if you could give the word to anyone who wants to speak, Eva, that would be great. And the first question that Susanna mentioned was, what are the main challenges when it comes to user involvement? So she talked a little bit about what people have answered in the survey, and we are wondering if you have any experience about this, or why do you think it's so hard to use people in this testing and so on. I see Alexandra raise her hand. So Alexandra, please, you can put your microphone on.
Hello. I've been working at a company that's been working with social impact development for some years, and we've been working a lot with user involvement and user testing and, you know, all the UX stuff.
Yeah.
And I would say in those cases when we had close contact with the habiliteringen, I don't know the English word for that one. In Swedish, it's called habiliteringen, for example. Or do you have the word?
I don't have the English word for it either, sorry.
Yeah, but in that case, that was one of the main things, was finding people, the children that was going to do the user testing. It was a big thing. So together with the network we already had with the schools for, you know, the särskolan and so forth, and habiliteringen, we had the team to be able to find those individuals who wanted to be part of developing the aid, the digital aid that we were doing. But when you're not in one of those great teams, when you're just a company who wants to develop something and want to involve the same persons or the children, they are so, it feels they are so protected. It's hard to find it if you don't have the network with the parents. So it's a difficult thing to reach out.
And how do you think this can be solved best way?
Well, it's a good question. You asked what the main challenge is, and for me and for the company that I worked in, finding those individuals who wanted to be part of this was one of the big issues.
Yeah.
And we had some fantasy of, it would be great if you had like one of those portals where people can register, this is me, this is you know, my profile, and I'm open, this is the way I want to be paid, you know, and you could just distribute like, this is the things we want tested, and you can just apply for it.
Yeah.
Like almost like a working you know, what do you call it, Platsbanken portal.
Yeah, a portal where you can gather people and they can set up the profile and so on, and you can send out perhaps what you are looking for to test and so on.
The right target group, and they can just, okay, I'm interested in being part of this, because it's so, you know, the integrity part of outing your disabilities can sometimes be like, okay, so I don't want to be in a portal where I'm telling the disabilities I have, but at the same time, as you know, as a company who wants to develop it, it can be a problem when you want to collaborate with them because of the disabilities that you want to, like if you're focusing on a specific target group. If you want people who are deaf, you have to ask for, I want people that are deaf who So it's I think it's a hard part, both being open about it and not violating someone's integrity at the same time.
Yeah, it's a great input. Is there anyone who had another experience about this, where you have this portal, or how you get in contact with people that has disabilities and you want to test anything? Is there anyone in our audience who has experience here? I see Alina is raising her hand. Please, Alina.
Yes. Yeah, I've had experience for one project that I'm working with right now, where I try to reach out to people with disabilities, get their user experience, and what I did was contact I think over 100 organizations for people with disabilities. So all the big ones, but also many small and local ones all over Sweden. And I got really great input from them. And I think one aspect that made it successful was that I first were quite flexible. I both offered interviews and just a questionnaire that they could fill in, so they could choose in which way they wanted to participate and how much time they wanted to invest. And I also planned it quite beforehand, so that I was flexible, that I could, because some took like 4 weeks to get back to me, but that wasn't a problem for us, so I still could take in their input. But the downside or the problem that I'm still struggling with is, I mean, not everyone wants to be a part of these organizations. Some people, actively choose not to be a part of one of these organizations because they don't agree with how they work or whatever. And so if you only go with organizations, then you're always missing people that actively choose to not be a part of organizations. And it's a little bit in the same kind of problem that sorry, I didn't get the name of the person that talked before me, but she also mentioned it. For example, if you're not really comfortable with or confident with your disability, and you don't want to disclose it so much, then but you still have needs to be a user for certain things.
And how do you approach them? Do you write to the organization and says, I would like to get a hold of your members, or how do you approach?
I approached them by the organizations and wrote emails that I described quite a bit about what I wanted to do, but also who I am or who we are. It's a small corporation, so I couldn't like put a big name on it, but that's why I thought it was really important. And I think that also made the difference that many organizations wanted to participate, was that I was really open with who are we, why do we want to do this, what do we want to do, so that it felt kind of a connection.
Did people
directly
get some compensation? Did you write about that in the email as well, or?
No, they didn't get compensation, but I was open with that from the beginning. That we are also a very small work. We are basically two people cooperating, so we really don't have the possibilities to compensate them. I also did all that work in my free time, so I was very open with that from the beginning. But I still have continuously contact with them, and okay, now maybe
thank you very much.
I compensate them because I in our products, and we will make it public that they helped us. So that made kind of a compensation.
Yeah, thank you very much. I saw Kerstin raised her hand, so please, Kerstin.
Yes, hello. I very much agree with Aline that you should use the organizations. I worked for a brain injury association for 5 years as an ombudsman, and there came invitations of different kinds, from research, from companies, etc. And if you explain well what you want to do and why you want to help to improve what you do, maybe the associations, they have knowledge about the area within their work, and also with the members of the society. And in one way, as we started a social meeting point, that you didn't need to be a member of the association. We did have knowledge of people outside of the as well, and who you could ask, maybe pinpoint this. Shouldn't this be something for you to test or be part of? So I think to make use, I also now the umbrella organization Funktionsrätt in Sweden in Västra Götaland, and it's you reach out to very many people by addressing, and if you do it in a good way, so you understand what's in it for me or for the user, so to say, it can be a good way, I think.
Very interesting. I saw there was another person raising their hand, but I did not get the name.
It was Pernilla.
Yeah, Pernilla. So please, Pernilla, if you put your microphone on as well.
I'm trying. I'm sorry.
Yeah, now we can hear you.
I was just thinking about people often take in users late in the process.
Yeah.
So they say, we have this solution. Will you like to test it for us? Instead of we have a wish to find out the problem.
Yeah.
What are the problems? What are the solutions you see? What are the needs you see? And I find that often if you have the willingness to help with some aspect, they are like companies are often too tight with resources.
Yeah.
So they are very positive about it, but
about involving users, you mean, or
about involving users? They are positive to the concept, but they don't have the resources, or if they have the resources, they have them late in the process. And I was thinking about that portal, the user portal, where you can sign up as a and with your competencies, and not only with your competencies as disabled, but with the whole spectrum. This is what I know.
What type of competences are you thinking of that people should write?
For instance, I'm a disabled person who is very good at programming, or I am very good at transcribing or something. So you can pinpoint the needs not only as a disabled person. You can be competent in a broader sense, and also I think.
I find it interesting, that you mentioned about this with involving users late in the process. This is something we also saw in one of the surveys that we had with the municipalities, local governments, that then you already have started with the solution, but then you involve them very late, and then maybe it's completely wrong what you have created from the beginning. So that is also something that people have to have in mind when they involve users, that they are involved from the beginning, because otherwise it might be that you have to change all of the things you have created in the beginning of your project or the product that you're developing. So it's an interesting take that you take up there, that they bring them in very late in the process.
And maybe in the portal have a wish list. This is the project we want. So that organizations can put it in wish lists, for example, for student projects or examinations or so forth. So
thank you very much. I saw that Harry raised his hand, so please, Harry.
Jakob, first was Alexandra, actually.
Okay, I missed one. Okay, sorry about that. Harry, you will have to wait a little bit. So
Yeah,
Alexandra.
I just wanted to answer. I didn't remember the name either. Someone before who was talking about the good thing about contacting the organizations that are working. I think that is one of the parts that I understand. That's the way that we've been working as well, like a way of reaching out. But at the same time, it's a kind of a filter that the organization gets to decide which projects they are going to let their members see or not. So it's not the members who get to choose, it's the organization that chooses for the participants. I would like the empowerment to be at the users, not at the organization level. So that was one of idea, to have an impartial portal. So it was the only thing I wanted to add on to that.
Okay, thank you very much. I will give the word to Harry.
Okay, in my region, it has started something it is called Levande Bibliotek, Living Library.
Yeah.
And that I have been involved and been interviewed, and it is the meaning that if a project is starting in the region, they can go to the library and ask for users that could be involved in projects, new projects.
So it's like a meeting point where the organization can come and find users, you mean?
Yes, it depends on the project.
Yeah.
It could be a big involvement in a year, and it could also be 1 or 2 meetings. I think it's a very good idea, but I can say it started a year ago, and I have not been involved in any project yet. So
No, but it's very interesting. It's another take on it, that it doesn't have to involve organizations all the time, or it has to be online, that you actually can come to a place as well. It's very interesting take on it. I saw Alina raising her hand. I think that was the name, at least. Sorry if I got it wrong.
Anneli.
Anneli. Yeah, it goes by very quickly here when people raise their hands. So Anneli, please.
I had to find the unmute button first.
Yeah, it's
so
always tricky, that,
Yeah, I had a physical one and one on the computer. Anyway, so I have a couple of comments. The first one is about the coming in late thing. I've been in UX for some time. And at the beginning, it actually started out quite often with confirming design, not evaluating design. Like you hired people for doing usability testing at the end of a project to confirm that you're done. It's a check mark.
Yeah.
And in many places, that's still the case. It's acceptance testing. It's not actually evaluating that you're doing the right thing. And I think that still lives on in many places. And that's a big problem with user involvement in general. And then there's a couple of other things. If you don't happen to be public sector, if you're a private company, you're often a sub-supplier, which means that you don't have a direct contact with your users. You need to go through your customers to get in touch with your users. And that can be a whole political battle, that you first need to go through the salespeople to find right people at the customer side who will then help you find the users that you can test with. And quite often those are the ones that are good users, that provide good feedback or are vocal, not the marginalized ones or the ones that are hard to get to find. just not only people with disabilities, but generally getting in touch with users if you're business to business is hard.
Yeah.
Because of those reasons.
Yeah, thank you very much. Did we have another one, Eva?
Yes, we have Lotta who would like to comment.
Yeah, Lotta, please.
Okay, hi. I'm working as a researcher here in University of Eastern Finland, and I'm doing my PhD about peer support as a means of supporting digital skills in different groups. And one of these groups is older adults, and this came to my mind what I think Anneli said about that this whole thing also involves other groups as well that are hard to reach. And my second article is about disabled persons and peer support amongst them. And here in Northern Karelia, here in Finland, we have another project that they have been peer supporting each other and giving peer support, for example, in libraries. And this is one thing also Harry mentioned. And I like the idea of a library as a reaching place for people, and especially talking in previous comments about not everyone being involved in organizations. And this involves all the people that not other peoples are not involved in all the organizations, but library is quite a good place to meet up with people and show what we have to offer. But again, like this year has shown, we cannot always go to library and meet up with each other. And that is a challenge that we are now facing, for example, in my PhD, and trying to find solutions. And in this other project, my disabled interviewees, they have been saying in their project that they also want people to know that they can offer support for each other, or for example, an immigrant person giving digital support for elderly people. But we just need to overcome those, for example, stereotypes that who can support and else. This is just a commenting that came to my mind.
Thank you very much, Lotta. I think we will try to move on to the next question. So we'll try to go through them all. If you had anything else here, you can please write to us or write in the chat if you had any extra comments. But now I have locked my screen. So there. What can we do together in order to improve the situation? And who is responsible for this? What are your thoughts about this? Do anyone work at a municipality or something like that? And what is your situation? Who is responsible? Do you have to talk to your boss in order to get this situation fixed? Or what do you think about this? How can we improve the situation? I see Karin raised her hand. So Karin, please.
Yes. I work in a municipality. I work in Malmö, and I work at the library. And I'm a strategist for the accessibility. And what we have done is that all our parts of the municipality, like working with culture, working with the parks, or with the buildings and stuff, we all work together. We have made a network where we all together try to have the same approach on accessibility in all different situations. And I have, of course, I have to talk to my boss as well, but there is a lot I can do myself. I don't have the budget or anything, but a network doesn't cost any money, and together we can do a lot, because if we need to do something that does cost money, if we all do it together, the costs will go down. It won't be so expensive if we
And when
all
you
do it
say
together.
all, who do you mean then?
Everyone in the municipality, like we call it förvaltning in Swedish. I have no clue what it's called in English. But it's like with the parks, with the roads, with the buildings and things like that, we all have our part and our areas that we are responsible for. And mine is the culture by working at the library. So we do it together. And that's what I mean by all, but I really don't know what the word for förvaltning is in.
No, but it's the whole municipality are aware of the situation.
Yes.
And you work at different departments.
Yes, departments, absolutely.
Can we call it management or administration, something like this?
Yeah, but it's for different, it's different
areas.
Focus areas. Yeah. So, but definitely we try to have a network anyway, so we do it together.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, I saw another person raising their hand. So
we have Alasara.
Yeah.
Hi. Yes, hi. I'm Sarah from Costa University. I'm a senior lecturer and researcher in HCI. So I'm very much interested in users, and I've been working with European projects where we try to bring in the requirements and try to do privacy by design or design from the perspective of the user. And I think that when we're talking about the idea of inclusion and how do we actually bring inclusion into a beneficial solution, it all starts with the attitude of inclusion. And I think that if you provide a specific base where there is no such thing as norms versus those who have to do an effort in order for them to reach out for that specific result, I think the effort management is very important, especially if we want to gain the input from the users. So providing a good platform and having facilitating the inclusion criteria for those users that you're trying to understand them, make them as comfortable as possible, that is key in order for us to get unbiased results of our selection, or to avoid making the wrong assumptions to begin with, as like we're all in this group of people and not really thinking of, oh, what could be possible. And from there, we kind of open the door to understand what is really there that could be improved. And I think that the mentality, I think it's very important. The actual culture that is there, that is really necessary.
How do you change this culture if people are stressed and they don't have time for it and so on?
Well, education and training. So for example, maybe not in accessibility, I can give an example of gender inclusion or the normalization of gender. So in teaching, for example, we try to avoid assuming everyone is how they are being perceived as gender binary. So when we start, for example, when I start in my lectures, introduce yourself and do a pronoun round. And this is like a way of like setting the standard from the start that everyone has a say in who they are. And there is no such thing as everyone is a default and the rest are the extras. And then the discussion, when it comes later in discussing what is going on and what is missing, everyone already have this sense of comfort that we're all on an equal level, that we could provide our input. And I think that is the important part when investigating or trying to set up standards. To find more strategies that are similar to this, that could be borrowed from other disciplinaries also, not only accessibility, but like equality in other senses, and try to adapt these strategies in addressing, collecting.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Did we have another speaker, Eva?
No one that raises the hand right now. So I think we can maybe move on to another question.
Yeah, unless there is anyone else who would like to improve this situation. We have found out that it's quite difficult, but yeah, okay. Then we will move on to the last question here. It's the next step, possibly a new project that we move on from this one. What do you think that could involve, and what is the next steps? Do you have any ideas for this? No?
You could maybe tell a bit what we think could be a next step, and so we can get some input to what people think about our idea.
Yeah, we have an idea of moving on with this together, but applying for a bigger project with a big budget as well. It could be at a European level, or it could be at the national level, but in the different countries. And that we move on with all the inputs we have received from now, and we try really to make a bigger change with this next project. Was there anything else, Eva, as you remember?
Yeah, I mean, the idea is to create some kind of manifest, which could be sort of a document or some kind of guidelines for organizations and institutions who would like which could be followed, and it could have some kind of stronger meaning that whoever signs for this manifest is actually thinking seriously about user involvements and bring sort of higher status to their own institution.
Yeah, a commitment, you could say.
Yes, exactly. What do you think? Does anyone has any input?
I think I saw Anneli raise her hand.
Yes, I am not entirely sure. Something to sign, a commitment would be very helpful. I don't think that the problem is that people don't want to be inclusive and to involve users, but that it's hard to do it. So I think it would be more helpful to provide advice, help, suggestions how to do it.
Yeah.
Not guidelines per se, but pointers. How to get started, where to find people, how to find people, what to do, how to do it, instead of saying you should do it.
So like a help guide of some sorts.
Yes, I think that would be better.
Thank you. I saw another person raise her hand, but I missed who it was.
It's Alexandra.
Alexandra, please.
I have the same thoughts as Anneli, that the thing you need is not more work in that case. You know, even if you're used to working with UX, it's still, you don't want more rules. The guidelines is a good thing, but then it needs to come with a tool, like this is helping you to do this thing you already want to do. You want to do the user testing, you want them involved, but how should I do it, and how can it make it become easier for me to do it, to find the persons, to I just took a quick check on the Levande Biblioteks site because I got interested in the idea. And there's already like, this is how much you pay, this much for half a day. This is how it would work if you are lending someone from this library. So that becomes a help, not extra work. So you need to think, this is do the UX work, do the user testing on the idea that you're thinking about the new project. How can we help the people, help the organizations do this work and include the participants in a efficient and easy way? So don't go into the trap of doing bad UX for the UX.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I saw another person raise their hand.
Yes, we have Aline, and then it's Martin.
Yeah. Alina, please.
Yes. I just, in addition to everything that the others said, I also think that it's important to raise why it is important. It's not only a nice thing to do, but it's also has also really positive impacts on, depending on who you're talking to. And talking to municipalities, it's a part of democracy. When you talk to businesses, it's about them being able to sell to more people and have more happy customers. So it's will be financially rewarding. And because I think that many times inclusion of people with disabilities is still in this in this paradigm of doing good, being nice, being helpful, and that's why it often gets down, not prioritized when you have, when you have to save time or money.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, Martin, you will be our last one speaker before we take a break. So please.
Thank you. Hello. My name is Martin. I work in the municipality of Sundbyberg, nearby Stockholm, and I work with disabled children and youngsters with culture. And I do agree with Alexandra and Anneli, I think it was, the need for tools. That's essential, I think, working when we are working with this. And then I got this idea because we have a lot cooperating a lot with the authorities for inclusion that we have in Sweden, which is our government's right arm in the work with disabled people, with inclusion in society. And they have developed a lot of tools in different areas. So I wonder if you at Funka have any connection with them, because that maybe their expertise in working with municipalities all over Sweden, providing tools and developing tools could be helpful in this that you want to achieve in user involvement.
Yeah, we do have collaboration with them, but on this point, I'm not sure how much collaboration we have about these tools that you speak of. But I could, of course, check. I believe Susanna is the best person to answer this question, so I will give that question to her later.
That would be great, because I think that you have the expertise you have at Funka, and I can see the need for user involvement in the work I do. And in Sundbyberg, at our department, the municipality, we ask ourselves, how do we do it? So that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We have received a lot of good inputs. It's been really good that you wanted to join us for this workshop. And now we will take a short break. So please be back in 13:55. So you have around 15 minutes. Thank you very much, and we'll see you later.
Welcome back.
Are we in the expert room now?
No, not yet. The experts are very welcome to take
yeah, that's
break.
True.
And I will put you, the moderators, in the different breakout room now.
Do we have a coffee break? Maybe we can just show the agenda or something on the screen. I don't think we did a coffee break slide.
I did. I can show it in a second. Here. Mira and Kato, Susanna. So.
Thank you, Eva.
Kato, I think you have to accept to join the room. Yes. And we take the coffee break. So see you later. You're back.
You're back. So can you see when everyone is back, or of course you don't are at their computers, but
yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, we lost 8 people, but yeah, it's 56 now, so I think we can just start.
Yep. Okay. So thank you everyone for staying with us, and this last part of the workshop, we will make short presentations from each of the expert rooms, the national expert panels, and then open the floor for Jakob, who was the moderator of the plenary, so he can also add on what the. I mean, we all have a problem because there's so many good things here. We have stuff for another day or so of discussion. So we will have to make it short, but I will try to make a short presentation, and then Jakob will add on what has also been discussed in the plenary, and then we open for comments or questions from both audience and experts for a couple of minutes, and then we move to the next country and do the same thing. So we will have the presentations from all the 3 expert groups and the perspectives from the plenary together with that. And then hopefully we will also, I think we will write a novel after this. We have a lot of material, and so we will try to summarize and send it out to you afterwards, because we just had 15 minutes and we had no chance to really put all the good ideas into one document. I'm sorry, and we won't have time to discuss all the brilliant ideas that we already had. Anyway, I promised to start this. So I have 4 main bullet points from the Swedish experts. And the first, and I will focus on the solutions, because I think we all agree on the problems and perspectives. But what we discussed was really that information is crucial, and really everyone, all the different parties here need to improve. So the disabled persons organization could improve by having a little bit closer and better contact to their members, so that the members actually understand the value of being an expert in providing their expertise into testing. So the disabled persons organizations can also support the user involvement maybe in a better way than they sometimes do. The persons with disabilities needs to sometimes, the people who are testing, and this of course very general, but also need to be a little bit better prepared sometimes and understand what exactly am I testing now, so that the discussion isn't about everything that is bad in society or everything that is needed to change, because even though how important that is, the project needs to have a focus. So it's important that the test persons or the users that are involved in focus groups and so on also can accept that this is a specific discussion we are having right now, and we need to keep to that subject. The organizations who organize the testing and or own the product or service that is tested, they need to be better in providing information around what is supposed to be tested, and how is this going to happen, and why, exactly what questions are we looking for answers to, so that there is a frame of the whole thing, so that the discussion doesn't become so open. And also it's very relevant for the users to have information throughout the whole project if possible, so that you also understand what happened with my feedback and how did they, what did they do with this feedback. So better information from all sides, really. So everyone has a little bit of homework to do, and every part of this can be improved. So that was a very democratic solution, I think. We also discussed that sometimes even when you get answers to questions you didn't pose, that can be extremely relevant and very helpful, and you learn a lot from that, but it sometimes doesn't really fit with the results. And when you have an organization or a project that has a sharp deadline, then you just need to focus on that. And of course, there is sometimes a problem to understand when you learn things that is not so concrete. It's very hard to value that. The second point was to do this as a stepwise approach. So one of my the experts in my group said, start saying hi to your user, and then you can, that will make a big difference because you didn't say hello to your user yesterday, and then you can start doing things in a more active way. So don't think that you need to do the perfect user testing, answer specific questions and learning everything. It's good just to involve users, even in a small proportion, even just once, because most people, according to the expert in the Swedish group, don't do it. So in most businesses and organizations, they just don't use or involve users a lot. So and we had several of the experts saying that in my whole career, most people I meet, they never meet the users, even though this is taught in university in the studies. You are trying to make, and you're hearing that this is important, but then when you get out in the real life, that this doesn't happen. So start doing something small. It's better than nothing. Then we had the idea that user involvement is really the gold of designing and developing things, but we need to describe it much better. And this is also something all the professional parts can do together, trying to fit the idea of user involvement into the budget, the value of the whole thing, so that this has to do with money. Because if you, I mean, it's self-evident that if you produce something that is not possible to use, then it will be an expensive production, and then you will have sort of a lot of special solutions on the side to make sure that anyone wants to use your product or service. But this needs to be communicated in a better way, so that organizations or managers understand why is user involvement really important, and really to put that into a budget or a frame where money talks is something we believe could really improve this. And my fourth point was about when doing improvements, that it's really based on actual user needs. So the good examples we found or discussed is when the user organizations are really coming to an organization, pushing them for something that is really, really valuable for them, so that the improvements made in services are based on actual user needs. And that is, of course, very specific, but it's also a very good example. And we had the Swedish Public Broadcasting Organization as one example of that, listening to users and making improvements. That is, of course, not always possible to do, and I hope that also user involvement can be done from the start before you have something that doesn't work. But really, it's a good point that that you should base your improvements on the actual user needs. So, is there anything in these bullet points that you would like to add from the plenary discussion, Jakob? Something that was...
Yeah, it was very interesting what you said, because we talked pretty much about the same things as you said, but we also talked a lot about the challenges that it's kind of hard to find these people to participate in the user tests. And we had some organizations and some people that had some suggestions and solutions to this. Of course, one should be that you could have a portal that people could log in themselves and add themselves, but then you have this integrity problem. Would you like to specify your disability and so on, and what should be on this portal? We also had a suggestion that you should not only just specify your disability, but also your skills, of course. Mm-hmm. So it could be good for organizations to find people here that they want to involve. But then, yet again, you don't involve everyone. It's just the people who really wants. So, but that is one nice option. We also talked about living library. For instance, if you live or work in an organization that is up north in Sweden or Norway or Finland, it could be even more challenging finding people. But then one organization has used a living library where they could put out a note and so on that we are looking for people and we will meet up here at a specific spot. And with, of course, very good information. As you mentioned, that is something that we talked about a lot. That information is key here. We also talked about involving people from the start. That is also a very important aspect of this, that many companies or organizations involve them in the end of the process. And this is, of course, not good, but people should be more informed about what is good by involving users at the beginning and use them the whole process. yeah, to change the attitude is also something that we discussed among our group. And then the last point that we also discussed was what is the next step here. We talked a little bit about the manifest that people should join up. It got received so-so, I would say, but instead it could be that we create a help guide, a tool of some sort that people, organization can use, and so they know how to approach this with user testing a lot easier. So some tips and so on, that how you can do a better user test or how you can involve users in some sort. So that is also something that we talked about. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I wanted to let the Swedish experts in, or anyone in, to comment on the bullet points. I'm sure I missed out on many of your clever ideas, but I needed to to compromise it into bullet points. But if anyone has something to add or comment on these first ideas and results, the floor is open, I think, or.
Well, I think it's also for the state parties and the local governments. It's also a question about disability rights, of course, to include the users. So they have to be informed about how to do this correctly, and you have to inspire them to start working on this.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else wants to add something at this point? Okay, so let's go to Norway then and listen to Cato and the results from the Norwegian jury, I almost said, but the Norwegian expert panel.
Yes, Sweden 12 points.
Thank you.
Okay, there are some similarities to what you have discussed and what we have discussed, but our main matter of concern was lack of awareness. Awareness is key to make something happen. Because, and what also is a problem is that researchers and developers do not know what to do when they want to include the users. They don't know where to go. For instance, I in my work get a lot of questions from people who are starting a project and they want me to find users for them. That's basically one of the tasks that I have to do, being someone working for an umbrella. So that's just a fact. So there's lack of knowledge and lack of awareness to make things, to bring users into projects. And as Jakob also said, bringing in the users from the start is a key, because if you do that, you can check out the relevance of the project and if it actually will be used. Because if you just start without including the users who are actually going to use it, you may end up as a developer making a product that no one wants to use. That makes no sense. And also, it's key that the users follow the project so they can check that the quality, what the end result is good. So those are some factors. And on question 2, who is responsible? I want to answer that first. The project owners are responsible for including the users from the start, and they should be made aware of that. So that's something we have to underline. What also is a key factor to improve the situation is education, because we need experts, but we also need to spread the word about why universal design is so important in ICT projects. So it's on policymakers, organizations, and branch or developers to be aware and press for universal design. Have that added as a start. When it comes to new projects, I'm on the same page as you, making a system for user participation, making a tool, kit, or whatever, you can call it many names. And also, I think it's important to underline that the user's expertise should be compensated in some form, that we should have a system for that. One of the people who was in my group mentioned the ADKAR model, which is awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, reinforcement, meaning that we need awareness about the needs to have users involved so we can create competence and interest. I will make notes about that when I send in my notes. So I think that sums up what the Norwegians discussed. Thank you.
It's very interesting that you started out very boldly saying that it's the responsibility of the project owner, which I totally agree with, of course, because if you own the project, then that's your responsibility. But then you followed with everyone has a responsibility as well. So I think you ended up in the same place we did in the Swedish group, where everyone has a little bit of homework to do. And I think that is positive in a way, because that means that we can't just sort of blame one part, but everyone needs to do a collaborative effort, and I think that is really helpful. If we do things together, then we have a better chance to solve the problems. That's how I see it.
But it really starts with the project owners, because Busti, for instance, has money for a lot of projects, and they are responsible to ensure that universal design is key. Just to give an example.
Yeah, that's a Swedish Norwegian agency for children, families, and something else. They are funding small research and innovation projects every year in Norway.
Yes.
Just for everyone else to know. And they also have what must be the world's lousiest portal for research calls. I know that because I'm used to reporting in it. So, did the plenary session have any? Do you have any comments on the awareness and responsibility parts that Kato mentioned, Jakob? Anything that the plenary discussed that sort of fits into that, or you can add from the plenary?
I have not so much to add from this, because I think what Kato said was pretty much the same as we discussed as well. So it's very interesting. I just remember that we also talked about one municipality where they all in the whole municipality have the same information. So it's split up in different departments. And usually one department is going out finding user testers, but here the whole municipality together have the same information, so they have a sort of a checklist, so they know how to approach, and they could actually reach out in different to different target groups together. So this is very interesting that the whole municipality is working together in this solution, which is not, I would say, the reason how it often is. So that is also something that is a good practice here.
So may I ask, was that a Norwegian?
It was a Swedish one. It was Malmö, actually.
Wow, which is a super big.
Yeah.
I thought it was one of these tiny Norwegians where you have like 100 people in the whole municipality. Okay, that's impressive. Yeah. So that's definitely something we should look into, because I think that is, if that works well, and it sounds like it's a good practice, then that is something that definitely many more people could learn from, or other organizations could learn from. That's good. It's a good with a nice new idea. So anyone else wanted to comment on the Norwegian results? Do we have any questions or comments in the chat? Maybe I don't see that right now.
No, not at the moment.
Yeah, I one thought, Joachim here. It was mentioned owning the project. I think that is a key factor, maybe, because if users as well feel that they own their project, you didn't mention who owns the project, but you said it was the owner's project responsibility to take contact with the users, if I understood it right. But if there are a common ownership from the beginning, users are already involved and are a part of how to involve more users, if you understand.
Yeah, good point. Definitely, that's true. Okay, any other comments or thoughts on this part? Okay, so let's go to Finland. Mira, did you finalize your?
Yeah, I tried. It's quite difficult to listen.
I know it's hard work.
Yeah, it's quite difficult to listen at the same time and try to make sense. But I think it's quite safe to say that whatever you said here, it was pretty much what we talked. But what we talked in our group. But what I think what one thing was that we have these two experts with developmental disabilities, and they gave us an insight to that very often people who have developmental disabilities, they feel that people are very afraid to ask them to take part in any kind of user involvement, because people quite often think that they can't express their opinions or experiences because people don't have they haven't spent time with persons with developmental disabilities, so it's very hard. So it comes to an awareness and attitude. So the challenges are the same in every country. So there's lack of processes in companies, and there are usually one or two people in companies that are interested or are doing these things. And if it doesn't go up to a management, then it just doesn't happen. So yeah, it can't be on only a few people in organizations. One practical idea what our expert group gave was that some kind of user bank or portal or notice board where different kind of people could sign up to do different kind of testing, and in that place there could be also some kind of checklist for companies or public sector how to treat different kind of people and such. So yeah, I think that was pretty much it.
That's very interesting. We just got a proposal for exactly that kind of service or portal from a person who wanted to make a research project with us. So I think that, and it sort of also connects with the idea that Jakob presented from the plenary, and I think we have heard similar ideas, and there has also been smaller projects at least or initiatives like this before. The problem is usually to keep it going, and that you need some kind of funding in the start at least.
Yeah, that's true.
There's actually something, I think there's really something there that someone should try to do something about. And also I wanted to give the floor to Jakob, sorry. Did you have anything to add from the plenary session that connects to the Finnish?
Nothing that I have not already mentioned, I would say. So that's pretty much it, yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to second what Mira said about people with cognitive disabilities or intellectual disabilities. That I was very upset the other day because we were invited into a call for tenders from the European Commission, which was focusing on the user groups, the different user groups of people with cognitive disabilities, and then there is always an open room for questions from the suppliers that would like to bid for this. And the only questions that came in was, is it really necessary that we include people with disabilities in this? And that came on and on and on again. And these are the suppliers that are supposed to perform this work. And after a while, the Commission said, okay, so if no one can involve them, then please at least involve the organization. So try to do something. But yes, the requirement is that you are supposed to involve people with cognitive disabilities. Of course, how would you otherwise know anything about their needs or requirements? Yeah, so that is something we can all agree on. I think is sort of a specific problem in this. I mean, you could maybe do this as a 3-part challenge here. So the first one would be to involve users at all, which it seems like far too few organizations do. And then the second one would be to involve different kinds of users coming from different countries or ages or gender or disabilities and so on, so that we have a much more sort of diverse way of looking at the users. And then the third step would be specifically with people that have, or some of the organizations perceive as being extra difficult to include, which would be people then with cognitive disabilities. So maybe there are, again, a stepwise approach trying to first teach people to do user testing or user involvement at all, and then try to sort of broaden the scope of this in a good way. So it seems like the planning or the agenda here was a bit bad, because we had a lot of discussions in the expert group and the breakouts before the break, and now we really prided ourselves of doing short presentations to make sure to open the floor for discussions, but maybe everyone has said everything already, so it was a little bit harder to get the sort of full discussion going in the full group. But I would like to ask if we have any more questions or comments in the chat, or if any one of the moderators or Jakob would like to add something more to the discussions, or any one of the experts would like to say something more, because I know there were a lot of more interesting thoughts and ideas here when we discussed before the break. Anyone want to share something?
We have Anneli who is raising her hand. Please, Anneli.
Yes, I think it's a little bit too simplified to say that the project owners are the ones owning this. If we're looking at municipalities and stuff like that, many of them don't do their own development. They use offentlig upphandling, whatever that translates to.
Procurement. Public procurement, yes. Mm-hmm.
And then that should be in the requirements in there, because the suppliers probably only do what they are asked to do in order to be the lowest bidder for those. So it actually comes a step further. It's the stakeholders that need to require this in order for it to be included, in my view. It doesn't help with only the project leaders.
No, I agree, absolutely. But the way I interpreted the Norwegian discussions or results was that the sort of the main, it needs to start with a project owner. And I think if the project owner is a municipality, then I mean, if I work in a municipality and I'm supposed to develop a service and I put it out on procurement, then I should require, in my view, I should require the product or service to be user tested in a good way. So it still falls back on me as the project owner, even if I don't have the development people myself. But if I put it out to a procurement with a supplier, then I should require that it is tested with users. And that, I think, is quite rarely the case, at least not for the procurements that we answer to. That is usually something you have to include for free or something like that. So I think really, I think it still puts at least the initial requirement or responsibility with the person who is responsible for the project. I think that is the project or the product owner is not the developer, but the person who is investing in this or who is responsibility for the whole thing. But Kato, would you like to?
Yes, but I think that was exactly our point. It has to start with the project owner. Of course, if you let someone else do the project itself, you just have to be sure that one of the requirements is universal design and that users are involved. So yeah, but you got our point clearly. So thank you.
It wasn't clear that it was the project owner on the ordering side. I was thinking of the project owner on the delivery side, who will also be one.
the person asking for a development project should be clear what they want about user involvement.
Okay.
And prepared to pay for it.
Exactly.
Good point.
Yeah, because I really think, I mean, it's very easy to say that the suppliers are doing a bad job. That's kind of easy to point to them. But again, just as you said, they are trying to lower the cost to get the job. So of course you can't include everything, because then you won't earn any money and then your staff won't get paid. So that doesn't work either. So I really think it has to do with the value, to make sure that, I mean, the value in many different perspectives here. So the value of the expertise of the users. So the users should be compensated for bringing in their expertise. That's one of the values. But also another value is really to make sure that the one who is owning the product, or who is responsible for the product or service, is really understands the value of this. So the municipality in this case would understand that if we want this service to really be good and be of service to our citizens, then we need to make sure that it is meeting the user needs, which means we need to test it with users, or better still, start talking to the users so that we base it on the user needs instead of first developing it and then testing it later. So I really think it's about value here. Somebody needs to, or all of us need to be more clear about the real value of user involvement. And we all agree that there's a lack of competence or knowledge around this. So awareness raising is one thing. And again, like always, when we do these kind of events, we get a lot of new ideas and inspiration, and it's a fantastic discussion, but we are probably not really reaching the ones that we would like to understand this, because we are all in agreement on how important it is. So if every one of us could go to 5 people and tell them about this and teach them about it, then we would sort of spread the word instead of just preaching to the choir. Anyway, do we have any more questions from the audience, Eva?
I mean, we have Eric, who just commented in the chat that, yes, we definitely should look at the procurements and the procurers. It is important to know what you ask for when you go shopping, writes Eric. And Torbjörn would like to say something. So
yes, I would like to do. Hi, Susanna. Nice seeing you again. Currently, I represent Beauvais, which is one of the large IT consultancy in Norway, and we, as specifically us, but also our colleagues in the business, we need to take responsibility here as well. And one part of that is to actually educate the procurers, because we see quite often that the procurers don't know what this is about. They don't understand why we should involve the users, or why we should work with accessibility. So we need to educate the product owners and the procurers. And we also, as Wei-Tin mentioned in our group, we as a business, we need to actually make requirements on the candidates we recruit directly from university as well. So we definitely have an important role here.
Yeah, good point. It's a crazy world when the suppliers need to educate the procurers, but I absolutely agree with you. And yeah, that's a big question, but but I do agree. And we all have a responsibility. I like that fact. So Eva, you have the control of the order of the people who raise their hand. I have absolutely no control, but
yes, next in line is Tur, who would like to say something.
Yes,
you are very welcome to turn on your camera as well. If you want to.
I can't. It comes some message that I can't start my video.
Yeah. So I'll try to do it for you then, if.
Yes, okay. Thank you. Okay, yes, I put in the chat that there is a new standard, European standard that can be used by any organization working with user involvement to extend the range of users with working with universal design. And this standard is also meant to be used in public procurement. So I think that's an instrument to use for organizations, and to you can point that this tool exists today. And I think we also in Sweden, we have written into the Swedish strategy for procurement that we should work with universal design. So it's there, and also in the law, but not as clearly as, for instance, in Norway, I think. So, but this is a really good tool to use in public procurement. But I think also that is very strategically important point to start working with user involvement to require this. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Public procurement is kind of the key for many things. So I agree with you. It's a big topic, but it's extremely important for the whole case of not only user involvement but accessibility as a whole, of course. Yeah, thank you. And so we can also send the link to this standard and also other material to all participants after the session. So I think we can collect a lot of good information and send it out to everyone if you're interested. So did we have another hand raised?
Yes, I think we can take first Andreas and then Alf, and then we can ask Kato to comment on Karin's question in chat. So Andreas?
Thank you. I just have a comment regarding what you said, Susanna, about getting angry when people are questioning the need for user involvement or for any type of accessibility things. Sorry, because I think it's kind of up to us in the industry also to practice in explaining why we should involve users, because if it's too obvious for us who works with it, I think it might be that we become too comfortable in the truth that says that it's something we need. But if we never put on the standard to explain it, then we might lose that, and we might forget to explain it. Because I mean, sometimes you meet people who say, why should you user test something? All applications looks the same anyway. And if we can't explain in any other way than saying, but it's obvious that you need user testing. If we don't have any better ways of explaining the value that we put into the product, I think that's pretty dangerous in general.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. And the reason I was frustrated here was that the whole tender was about user requirements for people with cognitive disabilities. And if you're supposed to report on the requirements for people with cognitive disabilities to the Commission, how on earth are you going to do that if you don't want to speak to the users? That was to me when it's obvious.
Yeah, and I agree totally. But I think we talked a lot in our group about the value that we are providing by involving the users, and that we might need to explain that better.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It is hard to explain all these sort of things that in many IT products or projects it's seen as the sort of nice things. Design is only the nice thing. Involving people is also sort of nice, and UX is always, it's like people just think it's sort of a little bit of paint instead of understanding that it's the whole key issue here. It's not the hard coding that is the main issue, but the user perspective. Yeah. Good. Well, I challenge you to come up with the perfect explanations, the solving all the problems and making sure all the procurers know what they do. Then this is fixed, and we don't need to do anything more. So it seems you have a lot of good ideas on how to do this. So, and what Eva decided that Alf was.
Yeah.
Yep. You own the queue. So.
Well. Just a short remark on public procurement. I mean, it's in the European Directive on Public Procurement that everything that you buy has to be suitable for the widest range of users. So it should be already from the start looked at. But I think that we need to often start a step ahead before we start to procure something. We should look into what is the needs from users and what is the needs from people with disabilities. Most often I think that projects are started for some kind of other reason, which is not really starting in the needs of the users. And especially that comes to all those disabilities that are not so visual. I mean, you have the cognitive disabilities that are not so visual, you have the hearing disabilities that are not so visual, and there's a lot of other disabilities that are not so visual. I mean, everyone can understand that if there's a staircase and a person in a wheelchair, you have to do something. But when we work with IT, in many cases, you don't see that if you don't start from the user. What do we expect from the user? What is the need of the user? And I think a lot of problems would be avoided if you sort of sat down with the users before you start up doing your project. We had an example in the Swedish outbreak room that we discussed that people with who have problems with hearing and talking, they need to also to get in touch with the healthcare. But the only way to get contact with healthcare in Sweden and many countries, I think, for many, many years has been you have to call phone call. And that we have argued about this for about 20 years. That it's not a good solution for people with hearing problems or with language problems to be able to talk in a telephone. But it needed a pandemic to someone to start really acting on this. We needed this pandemic, and then they start doing this. The problem has been there for ages, and no one looked at it because, you know, for many reasons. But when we have a pandemic, in the end, people are dying because they cannot answer their telephone or they cannot hear what the people are saying. Okay, then we start doing something. So I think you should take many projects one step back and look, what are the real needs of people with disabilities?
Yeah, I really agree. I think it's a real problem that sometimes projects are or development processes are started from an internal perspective. We as an organization need to redo something, or it would be easier for my organization if we got the feedback in this way instead of that way, or, you know, so it's sometimes a very internal perspective. And then in that process, sometimes the users that are actually going to use the service are sort of forgotten, which is of course absolutely crazy. So thank you, Alf. That was very enlightening. And I saw that we had really the Swedish broadcasting, the Swedish television were in the audience. So I'm happy that we mentioned them as a good example. So Eva, we had something that Kato would comment on. Yeah.
Yes, we have a question from Karin in the chat. Kato, can you see the question?
Yes, I've seen the question, and I delegate to Torbjörn to answer the question because he brought it up, and I think he's the right person to explain. So Torbjörn, if you could do that, that would be great.
Yes, certainly.
Maybe someone can read the question out loud.
Yeah, it's about the ADCAR model that Kato mentioned. ADCAR is a model from change management. Because basically what we want here, we want to change. We want everyone to change into involving the user more. And the ADCAR model stands for awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. And you can't really create the later steps unless you have developed the first one. So the first step is awareness. We need to create awareness of the need to involve the users in order to create desire for actually doing so later on. And then we have to, as have been mentioned quite a bit, we need to spread the knowledge on how to do it as well. And only then will everyone involved actually be able build the ability to involve the user in a good way and a structured way and on a frequent matter.
And everything will be better, and everyone will live longer and be happy, and everything.
Yeah. So what we really need to look at is how to create awareness. Starting with that, we can move on building the desire later on. But we need to start with the awareness, where the awareness is lacking or non-existent. But we can do this in parallel, of course, because quite a few of us are later in that stage. We have the awareness, we have the desire. Perhaps many of us as well have the knowledge, but not all of us are there. So we need to have some parallel activities, I think. Some for those who needs to be aware of the issue, some for those who needs to build the desire, and so on. So I don't have any concrete ideas right now on what those activities should be, but I think those perspectives I think will be important in planning activities for different target groups on different stages in that model, basically.
Thank you, Torbjörn, for outlining this better than I would be able to do. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, both of you. So I think this also fits very well with what Andreas Olsson was talking about, and many of the Swedish experts were talking about the value proposition and making sure that everyone understands why we do this. So I think that's it's part of the same puzzle here. We have another raised hand.
Yes, it's Malin.
If you would like to put on your video, that's always helpful for the...
Yeah, so now I think you can hear me.
Yes.
I have two things I just want to bring up as one of those users in the end of this. Like when I was at university, I was really organized in a few organizations from different disabilities, from cognitive, dyslexia, and so on. And we were asked from the university to do a lot. One of those I appreciated was when they brought us in to be part of putting down the requirement for the public procurement. So before they sent it out, they brought us in and was like, hi, do you have anything you want to add to this? Is there anything we have missed? And those times it felt like they actually wanted our input, and that what we said made a difference because they actually ended up on the list going out for the procurement. So that is like a good example I just want to bring up, that even though you don't own who gets it, you can ask before. And then on this like recruiting, I have more than one disability, and usually I get approached through organizations or parts I've been active, and then it's like they focus on one disability, but I sometimes feel like I want to represent more than one when I answer for different things. So if there were like one place where I can add, this is my profile, and have my different disabilities be part of that, that would make it more interesting for me, because I would actually be able to represent me and not just someone with a specific disability, which I find is an issue with when today you go through organizations because it's the way you reach us. But to get the wider, like being a whole person makes it fulfilling for me.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point, and important as well. I mean, there's yeah, it's boxing in people in different target groups. There are so many problems around that, and really, I mean, from my years in the visually impaired organization in Sweden, we always had this discussion of what to do with people who have a visual impairment and something else. Which organization are you even going to belong to? Because surprise, surprise, people are not just one thing; they are several things. So yeah, absolutely, I agree with you, and I think there are many reasons for that. But I would like to ask you, what university was it that you were attending? Because I think that is that could be really a good example if we want to show something where you could participate in or before the procurement even.
Yeah, it was Uppsala University. And I was part of starting like the organization Dyslektikerna vid Uppsala Universitet. And we had started with a really good connection to the student union. And then we got a few people who actually worked with lika villkor, equal opportunities at the central level of university, that like realized that we had good things to say, and that a few of us were good speakers, I would probably say. Like we could come to a meeting and give a 15-minute talk on how this is for the students. Because we had a lot of members who didn't want to speak up, who didn't want to be seen because they were like hiding their own disabilities. But a few of us were able to like be the voice of all those people. So it was, I will say that it was, and I don't think it's that good anymore, because then the need for our organization was less when we had gotten a lot of change done. So it's hard to have a working relationship like that. But for a few years, they really listened to us, and we could put the agenda on the table, and they went, oh, we need to look at this. So if you have the opportunity, it's really good.
Yeah. I still think it's a very good example, even if it may not be perfect to this date, but it would be interesting to document that. So if we could reach out to you later on, it would be interesting to have just a short piece of that in the project, because I think it's such a live example and something, and it's really good to have a good example showing that it can be done in a good way. Otherwise, everything becomes sort of focusing on problems. So thank you for sharing this. It was really very good input. So anything more from anyone?
No one is. Oh, we have four.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I just thought about what Alf said earlier about recognizing the diversity of needs. It's very important, and I think it's very difficult if you don't have contacts with the end users with their unique needs. And I think one good example is the slow speech-to-text solution that was developed recently, and which people with aphasia, and that their organization was part of this co-creation process, but also other people with dyslexia and autism and so on. And so when you find the possibility to work with different kinds of needs at the same time, they have the same interests often. So I mean, this I think is a good way to work, to start with the unique needs of people. So I think that's also a good example of this.
Yeah, and I think you're saying two things. So unique user needs, but at the same time a holistic perspective, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So that you don't just go on one path, but really try to make sure that you also provide good things for other or for multiple needs at the same time, which is sometimes a challenge. But so far we didn't really find it impossible to make combinations. But I think it's you need a little bit of both.
Exactly, but I just meant that there are good cases to look at.
Yeah, definitely. So. Yeah. Thank you. I think I see another hand.
Yes, so I think we have 11 minutes left. So I think Martin can be our last speaker, and then will be time to wrap up.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you. I just want to mention an example. When this was long ago, I worked in a home for mentally or intellectual disabilities, people with intellectual disabilities. And then we were approached, they were approached with a question from Certec at Lund Technological University for their students or designers and technical developers. They were looking for special tasks, or starting with the needs that we could see with the people that were living in this home. This was, I don't even remember when it was way back, but still that is an example of reversing the developing process and really starting with the needs. And I think that was a fantastic initiative, and also points to the importance of going into the educations of designers and technical developers to raise their awareness of this, and also the knowledge of working in this way. So that's what I wanted to add to the discussion.
Thank you. It's a good point. We had also Jon Søren from the Karlstad University in the Swedish expert group, who said that they are really trying to make sure that their engineers and other IT students get to try out user testing, but they don't have really statistics yet to prove that when they are well, here you are, you can describe yourself. I thought it was an interesting perspective to say, will this help in the future?
Yes, that's the problem. I mean, even if we for some 10 years at least have had for web developers this 5 weeks course where they're doing 5 usability testing throughout, they have to work fast, etc. It should be adapted to every commercial organization's need of doing this cheap and thorough anyhow. But of course, they don't have such a big impact when they come to the companies later on, because neither the procurers nor these these consultancy bureaus will actually pay so much time to do it, even if the students in principle know how to do it and do it quickly. And now I was speaking just about ordinary usability testing, where there are lots of uses. Of course, it's another thing if you go for some specific functionalities, then we also have this problem of sampling users.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, good points. Thank you. So I will reach out to you again in 10 years and see we can make sure to monitor the results of this. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone, especially our partners, of course. We will send out a short summary of these discussions, or a big summary, I think it will be. And do stay in touch with us if you want to learn more about the research we are doing, or maybe start a new project together with us. I think we have got a lot of good ideas for potential next steps here. So we have a combined mailbox, research at funka.com, where you can reach all my team, and make sure that we stay in touch in different ways to really do something good in the future. And again, we have all the reports, the survey results on our website, and I will also show the link. So this is a long one. It's www.funka.com/en/involving-users. If you don't find it, then please just drop me an email and I will point you to it. So it's funka.com/en/involving-users. But hopefully also possible to navigate to it from the English website. So I would like to thank my co-moderators, Kato and Mira and Jakob, and of course Eva, as always, for keeping us on track and doing all the technology things happening. And a special thanks to our interpreters, as always. So Helsa and Birgitte doing the sign language for us, and Tina, our captionist. And also, again, if you have followed the automatically translated captions, then please do give us feedback on that, because that I think is extremely important. We value your feedback, because we do think feedback is a gift, and we are very interested in this, because we usually have other kind of technology for the automatic translation or the automatic captioning, I'm supposed to say, but this is the first time we have had automatic translated captioning. So that's really really nice. So I hope I haven't forgotten anyone. Thanks a lot to our experts. I won't say all your names, but thank you to everyone, also all your participants. Very good input. Really, really excited about this, and I hope we can meet again in the future, not only in 10 years to see what Karlstad University is doing, but also much earlier than that to see if we can make sure that we improve things together. So with this, I will give you 5 minutes back of your life. Please use it wisely, and do never forget that there is no such thing as an average user. You need to take care of everyone. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.